Whether you like it or not, behind the vibrant facades of our cities, there exist unsung heroes who tirelessly ensure the cleanliness and safety we often take for granted. These individuals embody courage that few can muster, dedicating themselves to tasks that demand both bravery and determination. Their efforts contribute to the smooth functioning of our daily lives, even if their contributions often go unnoticed. Some receive well-deserved accolades during their lifetimes, while others continue their labor without the recognition they rightfully deserve. In this video, we are going to be going through what happened to the cops who locked up 100 Mafia members. Joe Pistone. First, our spotlight is on Joseph Dominic Pistone, better known by his undercover alias Donnie Brasco. Yes, you might have heard of him. The same character from the 1997 film Donnie Brasco. I bet you did not know the film was a true life story. Not in the movies, but in real life. He was a fearless FBI agent who dared to go where few law enforcement officers had gone before. In 1976, he embarked on an unprecedented undercover operation that would shake the very foundations of the Mafia. But before Joe Pistone was Donnie Brasco, he was first a young lad born in 1939 in Erie, Pennsylvania. Raised in Paterson, New Jersey, he was of Calabrian and Sicilian heritage. He attended Eastside High School in Paterson before enrolling at Paterson State College, now William Paterson University. And before being an undercover cop in 1965, he earned a degree in anthropology. In the spring of 1976, Joseph Pistone volunteered to infiltrate the Bonanno crime family. He was fluent in Italian, of Sicilian heritage, and due to his insights from his Paterson upbringing, he was the perfect candidate for this job. During this mission, he took up the name Donnie Brasco. The mission was codenamed Sun Apple, and it signaled the dual operations in Miami and New York City. What was initially planned as a brief operation that was not meant to last 6 months transformed into a daring, years-long endeavor. Trust was everything in that world. One wrong move, and his cover would be blown. He had to play the game smarter than anyone else. The operation was a tightrope walk between survival and exposure. Brasco walked a dangerous line, earning the trust of the Mafia while secretly passing invaluable information to his FBI handlers. As Brasco went deeper into the Mafia underworld, the CE4 risks grew higher. Suspicion, paranoia, and power struggles threatened to expose his true identity. To keep his cover intact, Pistone's name vanished from official records. His friends, informants, and co-workers were left in the dark about his disappearance. As Donnie Brasco, Pistone worked his way into Jilly Greca's crew from the Colombo family. His connection with Anthony Mira made it easy for him to get into the Bonanno family, where he underwent tutelage by Lefty Ruggiero. Amidst power struggles, Pistone's undercover role exposed him to the most volatile moments in organized crime history. He meticulously relayed these events to his FBI handlers. The evidence gathered by Donnie Brasco led to over 200 indictments and more than 100 convictions of Mafia members. His brave actions dismantled criminal empires and brought justice to those who had eluded it for so long. Joseph Pistone's groundbreaking work shattered the myth that undercover agents could easily be corrupted. His dedication paved the way for the FBI to adopt undercover operations as a vital tool in their fight against organized crime. However, the consequences of Pistone's daring deception were grave. On August 17, 1981, Captain Dominic "Sonny Black" Napolitano paid the ultimate price for allowing an FBI agent into the Bonanno family. He was murdered with his hands cut off. As the fallout intensified, Benjamin Lefty Ruggiero's arrest on August 29, 1981, further damaged the Mafia's influence. Anthony Mira met a tragic end on February 18, 1982, leaving behind a trail of shattered loyalties. Amidst the chaos, Joseph Pistone voiced his sorrow. "My intention in all of this was to put people in prison, not get them killed." The Mafia placed a $500,000 contract on Pistone's head, seeking revenge for the exposure he inflicted. Yet, Paul Castellano's decision to forego murder displayed a surprising glimmer of rationality amidst the chaos. On August 2, 1982, Pistone stepped into the public eye, testifying for the first time. The evidence he collected led to more than 200 indictments and over 100 convictions of Mafia members. Despite his departure from the FBI in 1986, Pistone's journey was far from over. He entered a life of anonymity, living under assumed names with his wife and daughters. Pistone's expertise continued to guide law enforcement agencies worldwide. His consultation with Scotland Yard and his Senate testimony showcased his invaluable role in combating organized crime. His remarkable story didn't stop there. Joseph Pistone immortalized his undercover exploits in his 1988 book, Donnie Brasco: My Undercover Life in the Mafia. This literary journey became the cornerstone for the 1997 film adaptation, starring Johnny Depp and Al Pacino. Pistone's technical insights enriched the cinematic experience. Beyond the big screen, Pistone's story also graced television. The short-lived series Falcone and the documentary episode of FBI: The Untold Stories delved into his riveting journey. Through his books The Way of the Wise Guy, published in 2004, and Donnie Brasco: Unfinished Business, Pistone revisited his life as Donnie Brasco, further illuminating the intricate shades of his undercover world. Collaborating with Salvatore Bill Bonanno, he penned the novel The Good Guys, 2005. Pistone's creativity extended beyond nonfiction. From novels like Deep Cover to Mobbed Up and Snake Eyes, he wove fictional tales rooted in his unique experiences. As an executive producer, his influence touched films like 10th and Wolf, 2006. Pistone's journey also inspired artists and playwrights. In Rosella Biscotti's The Undercover Man, 2008, he shared his insights. The stage came alive with Donnie Brasco, a captivating play at the Pennsylvania Playhouse. Documentaries like Mafia's Greatest Hits and Secrets of the Dead highlighted Pistone's profound impact on the Mafia landscape. In 2020, he embarked on a new venture, the podcast Deep Cover, The Real Donnie Brasco, sharing untold stories in his own voice. The legacy of Joseph Pistone continues to evolve. His presence in documentaries like Inside the American Mob and Revealing Obscurities showcased his enduring influence. Frank Serpico. Now, while this man might not have infiltrated the Mafia or didn't have any personal links with them, he was involved in exposing police corruption. And hey, let's face it, if the police, an organized unit, stop fighting crime and becomes corrupt, they become an organized crime, aka Mafia. Frank Serpico's journey begins in the heart of Brooklyn. He was the youngest child of Vincenzo and Maria Giovanna Serpico, immigrants from Marigliano, Naples, and Campania. He was of Italian heritage. At just 17, Serpico embarked on a new adventure, enlisting in the United States Army. Stationed in South Korea for 2 years, he honed his sense of duty as an infantryman, a glimpse of the steadfastness that would define his later years. Then he became a part-time private investigator and dedicated youth counselor while pursuing his education at Brooklyn College. The thirst for knowledge drove Serpico further. His efforts bore fruit as he earned a Bachelor of Science degree from City College of New York. With every achievement, his determination to make a difference grew stronger. In 1959, Serpico's journey into law enforcement began as a probationary patrolman with the New York City Police Department. As the years unfolded, his commitment to the badge would be put to the ultimate test. Assigned to various precincts across Brooklyn, the Bronx, and Manhattan, Serpico's pursuit of truth would soon become his mission. With a keen eye, he uncovered vice, racketeering, and corruption festering within the department's ranks. In 1967, Serpico took a fateful step. After years of investigation, he had credible evidence of systematic police corruption, which was the police acting like organized crime, and tried to bring it to light. But his efforts seemed in vain until he found an ally, David Dirk, another police officer, who helped him in his quest for justice. His pleas for justice fell on deaf ears within the police force. But in 1970, Serpico's determination caught the attention of the New York Times, thrusting his revelations of widespread corruption into the national spotlight. Mayor John V. Lindsay recognized the gravity of Serpico's claims. He established the Knapp Commission, which was meant to look into claims made by Serpico's investigation. But the road to justice was paved with danger. On February 3, 1971, Serpico faced a life-threatening situation while attempting an arrest. In the line of duty, he was shot during a drug arrest attempt. What transpired afterward cast a chilling shadow on the trust between colleagues. The circumstances surrounding the shooting raised unsettling questions. Did Serpico's colleagues intend to silence him? While no formal investigation took place, one of his fellow officers was later convicted of attempted murder. Despite the ordeal, Serpico refused to be silenced. His testimony before the Knapp Commission in 1971 resonated with unyielding honesty, challenging the very core of corruption that had seeped into higher echelons of the department. After a tumultuous journey within the NYPD, Serpico retired in 1972. In a pivotal decision, Serpico bid farewell to his homeland and embarked on a new chapter in Europe. The allure of distant shores beckoned, offering a respite from the tumultuous world he left behind. Serpico found companionship in Marianne, a woman from the Netherlands. Their connection led to a spiritual marriage. However, tragedy struck when Marianne succumbed to cancer in 1980, leaving behind a void that Serpico could scarcely fathom. Amidst life's twists, Serpico became a father in 1980. He contested a child support order claiming that the mother had told him she was on contraceptives. The mother had denied it, but her friend testified against her. However, Serpico's case was thrown out and ordered to pay $945 per month for the child. Alexander, his child, would later die on May 12, 2021. The pinnacle of his career was marked by the awarding of the Medal of Honor, a recognition that, ironically, was handed to him without fanfare. Despite the honor bestowed upon him, Serpico's certificate went missing, adding an unforeseen twist to his legacy. But in 2022, amid the sound of popping bubble wrap, the certificate finally found its way into his hands. Seeking respite and renewal, Serpico embarked on a journey to Europe. Spending time in Switzerland and on a Dutch farm, he delved into studies and embraced a life beyond the badge. Serpico's battle against corruption didn't end with retirement. He emerged as a steadfast advocate against police brutality and injustice, supporting those who courageously challenge oppression. In a powerful moment, Serpico Serpico stood beside NYPD officers, advocating for justice and supporting Colin Kaepernick's protests against police brutality. His words echoed his enduring commitment to stand up against oppression. Serpico's dedication was acknowledged on a global scale. In 2013, he was awarded the St. Michael Archangel Prize by the USA section of ANPS, symbolizing his triumph in the face of adversity. Eliot Ness. In the heart of Prohibition-era Chicago, Eliot Ness emerged as a formidable force against crime. Tasked with enforcing Prohibition, Ness faced the daunting challenge of confronting the notorious Al Capone and his criminal empire. Born on April 19, 1903, in Chicago's Kensington neighborhood, Eliot Ness was the youngest of 5 children born to Norwegian immigrants Peter Ness and Emma King. Raised in the bustling streets of Chicago, young Eliot's journey began amidst the vibrant tapestry of the city. Ness's thirst for knowledge led him to Christian Fenger High School and the University of Chicago. In 1925, he graduated with a degree in political science and business administration. Little did he know that these educational pursuits would lay the foundation for his future endeavors. Ness's career path took a pivotal turn when he joined the Retail Credit Company of Atlanta. Assigned to the Chicago territory, he conducted investigations that offered insights into people's backgrounds for credit purposes. This experience was his first brush with the world of investigation and the criminal underbelly of the city. In 1929, Ness's journey brought him back to the University of Chicago, where he studied under August Vollmer, a distinguished police reformer. Vollmer's teachings about professionalizing law enforcement left an indelible mark on Ness's approach to justice. Armed with a degree and a wealth of knowledge, Ness was poised to make his mark. The lessons from his education and experiences would guide him through the challenges and triumphs that awaited him. A family connection can be a powerful influence, and for Eliot Ness, it was his brother-in-law, Alexander Jamie, who steered him toward a career in law enforcement. Ness joined the U.S. Treasury Department in 1926, and by 1930 he found himself on the front lines of a war against organized crime. In a city plagued by corruption and criminal activity, attorney Frank J. Loesch called for action against the notorious Al Capone. Ness's expertise was needed to bring down the criminal empire that Capone had built. With Prohibition agents investigating Capone's income tax evasion, a special team was assembled, led by the young 27-year-old Ness. Tasked with targeting Capone's illegal breweries and supply routes, Ness meticulously handpicked a team of incorruptible agents. This team would later be known as the Untouchables. Armed with determination and a commitment to justice, they set out to dismantle Capone's empire. Ness's squad launched raids against illegal stills and breweries, causing significant financial damage to Capone's operations. In just 6 months, they destroyed operations worth millions, striking a massive blow to Capone's illicit empire. Wiretapping operations provided crucial information for these successful missions. Capone's attempts to bribe or intimidate Ness and his team failed. Charles Schwartz of the Chicago Daily News dubbed them Untouchables, a name that stuck and became their badge of honor. With their relentless pursuit, they earned a reputation as the nemesis of organized crime. His investigation into the business of Capone was a success, as he was able to secure the conviction of Al Capone. Following the end of Prohibition, Ness's career took a new direction. In 1935, he was appointed as the safety director of Cleveland, tasked with modernizing the police force and combating organized crime. During his tenure, Ness found himself overseeing the police department during the notorious Cleveland torso murders. While not directly involved in the investigations, he interrogated suspects and was confronted by the gruesome nature of the crimes. Ness's personal life faced challenges, with a divorce and subsequent marriages. His reputation took hits from critics who targeted his social drinking and a car accident involving drunk driving. Despite the setbacks, he remained in his role, determined to uphold his vision for Cleveland's law enforcement. After leaving Cleveland, Ness's career took unexpected turns. He worked on campaigns, entered the corporate world, and struggled financially. He ran for mayor of Cleveland in 1947, but was unsuccessful, highlighting his fading prominence. As the years passed, he was in relative obscurity, his role in bringing down Al Capone fading from public memory. He faced financial struggles and took odd jobs to make ends meet. He worked as a bookstore clerk and wholesaler of electronic parts and frozen hamburger patties. In 1956, he transitioned to working for a startup company named Guarenti Paper Corporation. The company claimed to have developed an innovative method for watermarking legal and official documents to prevent counterfeiting. Ness's background in law enforcement made him an attractive candidate for the job. He relocated from Cleveland to Cootersport, Pennsylvania, where much of the company's investment capital was based. However, during this time, Ness's drinking habits intensified, and he frequently spent his leisure hours at a local bar, regaling others with stories from his law enforcement career. Unfortunately, Guarenti Paper's promising venture unraveled when it became evident that one of Ness's business partners had provided misleading information about their supposedly exclusive watermarking process. process. This turn of events placed Ness in significant financial jeopardy. Ness passed away shortly after putting the finishing touches to his book, The Untouchables. It was a collaborative writing project with Oscar Fraley aimed at generating income during his later years. He suffered a heart attack and collapsed at his Coudersport, Pennsylvania home on May 16, 1957, at the age of 54. Following his death, his body was cremated and his ashes were scattered in one of the small ponds on the grounds of Lakeview Cemetery in Cleveland. A cenotaph was later erected in his honor near the pond by an admirer. Eliot Ness was survived by his widow, Elizabeth Anderson Seaver, and his adopted son, Robert. Numerous media adaptations have been created based on Eliot Ness's life and the legendary accounts of his work in Chicago. One of the first of these adaptations was the collaboration between Ness and Oscar Fraley in writing the book The Untouchables, 1957, which was published posthumously after Ness's death and went on to sell 1.5 million copies. While the historical accuracy of this book has been debated, subsequent research indicates that it holds a broad level of accuracy. A 21-page manuscript written by Ness for the book is archived at the Western Reserve Historical Society in Cleveland, Ohio. Joseph Petrosino. Joseph Petrosino, born Giuseppe Petrosino, was an Italian-born law enforcement officer known for his contributions to the fight against organized crime in New York City. He was born on August 30th, 1860, and tragically lost his life on March 12, 1909, while serving as a police officer. Petrosino's work as a detective with the New York City Police Department was instrumental in combating organized crime and pioneering crime-fighting techniques that are still used by law enforcement agencies today. He is often remembered for his efforts in taking down criminal organizations, particularly those connected to the Italian-American Mafia. One of his most significant accomplishments was his work in infiltrating and exposing the Mafia's activities, both in the United States and abroad. Petrosino established connections and gathered intelligence that helped law enforcement better understand and counteract organized crime networks. Giuseppe Petrosino was born in Padula, a town located in the province of Salerno within the southern Italian region of Campania. When he was young, Giuseppe, along with his cousin Antonio Pupolo, was sent to live with his grandfather in New York City. Unfortunately, a streetcar accident claimed the life of his grandfather, leading the two young cousins to find themselves in the care of the orphanage surrogates court system. However, instead of being sent to an orphanage, the judge overseeing their case brought them into his own family's home. He cared for the boys until contact was established with relatives in Italy, and arrangements were made for their family members to join them in the United States. As a result, Joseph Petrosino and his cousin Anthony Pupolo lived in an Irish household that had political connections for a period of time. This arrangement provided them with access to education and job opportunities that were not as readily available to more recent immigrants, particularly those of Italian descent. In 1874, the rest of the Petrosino family also immigrated to the United States. On January 6, 1908, Petrosino married Adelina Solino, a widow. Together, they had a daughter named Adelina Petrosino Burke, who later gave birth to Susan Burke. Joining the NYPD on October 19, 1883, marked a significant moment in Joseph Petrosino's career. He stood as the NYPD's first Italian language speaker, setting a historic precedent. With a height of 5 feet 3 inches, he needed to obtain a special waiver due to falling below the department's minimum height requirement. His association with Theodore Roosevelt, a member of the Police Commissioner Council overseeing the NYPD, grew into a friendship. Petrosino's proficiency in various Italian dialects endowed him with the ability to crack cases that eluded other officers. His remarkable knack for solving crimes within the Italian community was so recognized that whenever a serious offense occurred in that vicinity, his superiors would issue a call, "Send for the Dago." On July 20th, 1895, Roosevelt elevated him to the role of detective sergeant, commanding the homicide division. The pinnacle of his career arrived in December 1908 when he received a promotion to the rank of lieutenant. He was entrusted with leading the Italian Squad, an exclusive group of Italian-American detectives assembled with the specific purpose of confronting criminal enterprises such as the Mafia. Petrosino viewed these organizations as a stain on the reputation of respectable Italians and Italian-Americans. During his tenure with the Italian Squad, Joseph Petrosino was involved in several significant cases that showcased his dedication and investigative skills. One such case centered around the renowned Italian tenor Enrico Caruso, who was performing at the Metropolitan Opera House in New York City. Caruso found himself targeted by extortion from the Black Hand Gang, who demanded money in exchange for sparing his life. Petrosino, who had a deep love for opera, managed managed to persuade Caruso to collaborate in apprehending those responsible for the blackmail scheme. Another remarkable case in Petrosino's career involved his infiltration of an Italian anarchist organization with suspected ties to the assassination of King Umberto III in 1900. During this operation, he uncovered evidence suggesting the organization's intentions to assassinate President William McKinley during his visit to Buffalo, New York. Despite Petrosino's warning to the Secret Service, McKinley dismissed the caution. Even Theodore Roosevelt, who had risen to the position of vice president by then, vouched for Petrosino's capabilities. Tragically, McKinley was assassinated by Polish-American Leon Czolgosz during his visit to the Pan American Exposition in Buffalo on September 6, 1901. Petrosino's relentless investigations into mafia activities led him to Vito Cascioferro, a relatively low-ranking member of the Black Hand. In 1903, Petrosino apprehended Cascioferro on suspicion of murder, although Cascioferro was eventually acquitted. Subsequently, Cascioferro returned to Sicily and eventually rose to a prominent position within the Sicilian Mafia. This same individual later became a prime suspect in Petrosino's own murder. Furthermore, Petrosino delved into the infamous barrel murders case of 1903 as part of his ongoing efforts to combat organized crime and ensure justice prevailed. In 1909, Joseph Petrosino devised a covert plan to go to Palermo, Sicily on a clandestine mission. A recently enacted federal law granted the U.S. government the authority to deport aliens residing there for less than 3 years if they had a criminal record in another nation. Petrosino possessed an extensive roster of known Italian criminals who had sought refuge in the United States. His objective was to gather substantial evidence of their criminal histories, thereby facilitating their expulsion from the country for good. However, indications emerged that the confidentiality and success of his undertaking were under threat. Several weeks before his departure, the New York Times inquired about Petrosino's whereabouts from Police Commissioner Theodore A. Bingham. Bingham responded enigmatically, stating, "Why, he may be on the ocean bound for Europe, for all I know." The Times also cited an unnamed source in the same article, hinting at the purpose of Petrosino's covert mission. The U.S. ambassador to Italy, Lloyd Carpenter Griscom, expressed apprehensions to Petrosino directly, cautioning that he might be recognized by perhaps 1,000 criminals in Sicily. While in Rome, Petrosino became aware that he was being trailed. He confided in a friend that a man following him, someone he recognized from New York, had likely alerted his associates within the Black Hand Society in Noto, Sicily, about his presence in Italy. This foreboding event suggested that the secrecy of his mission was compromised. Tragically, on March 12, 1909, upon his arrival in Palermo, Sicily, Petrosino received an invitation for a nighttime rendezvous in Piazza Marina to acquire information regarding the Mafia. As he awaited his informant, Petrosino was suddenly ambushed by 2 assailants and shot in the face. Reports indicated that Petrosino managed to discharge 1 shot in their direction before succumbing to the bullet wounds. An Italian sailor who heard the gunshots rushed to aid him, but his efforts were in vain. Despite his untimely death, Joseph Petrosino's legacy lives on. His dedication to combating organized crime and his innovative investigative techniques have left a lasting impact on modern law enforcement practices. He is remembered as a courageous and pioneering officer who played a vital role in the ongoing struggle against organized criminal activities. Ralph Salerno. Ralph Salerno was a well-decorated New York City cop and the go-to guy for information about organized crime because he was so knowledgeable. Born in the Bronx to Italian immigrants on August 24, 1925, he completed his high school diploma at Theodore Roosevelt High School, then went on to serve the U.S. Navy between 1943 to 45. Back from his service in the World Wars, he joined the NYPD on September 1946. In his entire 20-year career with the NYPD, he worked both as a detective and specialized in the investigation of organized crime. He authored the 1969 book, The Crime Confederation, Cosa Nostra, and Allied Operations in Organized Crime. He was also interviewed for the project leading to the book called Addict Who Survived. As the year 1967 marked the end of his distinguished career with the police department, Detective Sergeant Ralph Salerno carried with him a reputation that was unparalleled. News accounts of the time hailed him as a man who knew more about the inner workings of the Mafia than anyone not sworn into its shadowy ranks. With over 2 decades in the department's intelligence branch, Salerno's expertise was a guiding light for countless investigations. He rose through the ranks, eventually assuming the role of supervisor of detectives in the Central Investigations Division. His keen insights and tireless efforts were instrumental in cracking down on organized crime's stranglehold, but Salerno's influence extended far beyond the precinct walls. Regularly summoned as an expert witness, his knowledge of loan sharking and various criminal activities made him a sought-after authority. His testimony echoed in the hallowed halls of both houses of Congress. resonating with the weight of truth and experience. In the federal and state courts, Salerno's voice held the power to expose the sinister intricacies of organized crime. Jurors and judges alike hung on his every word as he dissected the complex web of illicit activities, laying bare the tactics employed by the Mafia. But retirement didn't dim Salerno's passion for justice. Instead, it marked the beginning of a new chapter in his storied career. He officially became a consultant to the Department of Justice in Washington, where his insights continued to guide the fight against organized crime. Additionally, he lent his expertise to the National Council on Crime and Delinquency, a testament to his commitment to making a lasting impact on the field of law enforcement. His legacy was more than just cases solved. It was a legacy of knowledge shared, a beacon for those who followed in his footsteps. In 1970, Mayor John V. Lindsay, along with the city's Off-Track Betting Corporation, appointed him as a special advisor to the corporation. This decision came in response to indications that criminal elements were attempting to infiltrate or undermine the legitimacy of legalized betting. 3 years subsequent, Mr. Salerno assumed a role within the Queens District Attorney's Office, coinciding with Nicholas Ferraro's election. Ferraro selected Salerno to serve as the chief investigator focused on tackling organized crime and corruption. Throughout the years, Mr. Salerno's influence extended beyond these positions. He participated in presidential commissions, frequently engaged in public discussions, and delivered lectures at various universities across the United States and Canada. His contributions extended to written work as well. He penned articles for magazines and authored a book titled The Crime Confederation. The story I remember best, he recounted, referring to his upbringing, is how two thugs came from the fire escape one evening as the family sat at dinner. They were fleeing from the police on the roof. The intruders whistled for silence. Then one looked into the hallway, which was clear, and the pair of them went out that way. My folks were too scared to do anything. The next time my father went to the barber shop, the barber handed him a package and said, "A fellow left it for you." He said you'd know why. It had a new razor, a brush, and a mug ornamented in gold with the emblem of my father's union in the sanitation department. That's how well they knew everybody's business. These memories ignited his determination to become a police officer in 1946, resolved to combat criminal organizations that could intimidate a community through fear and seemingly innocuous gifts. He rose to the rank of detective in 1950 and was later promoted to sergeant a decade later. Despite retaining the title of sergeant, he took charge of the growing investigations bureau as supervisor of detectives, receiving lieutenant's pay for his responsibilities. In 1997, Mr. Salerno's wife of 5 decades, Frances McKnight Salerno, passed away. He is survived by 3 sons, James G. of Woodside, Francis D. of Eugene, Ouray, and Ralph P. of Glen Head, New York. Additionally, he is survived by 2 brothers, Michael of Utica, New York, and John of Ballston Spa, New York, along with 4 grandchildren. Throughout his law enforcement career, he maintained close proximity to the investigations involving some of the most infamous figures within the mob. His division utilized informants, surveillance techniques, and court-approved wiretaps, all of which he deemed essential. He regarded these wiretapping operations as invaluable tools. He believed that the use of such techniques could help investigators determine whether a missing mob member had gone into hiding or met an unfortunate fate, purely by analyzing the verb tenses employed during conversations. Mr. Salerno's diligent efforts yielded numerous arrests of Italian mafia men running from the Italian authorities. In an interview with the New York Times, as he neared the conclusion of his service as a police officer, he recounted an incident during a murder trial. The brother of a defendant confronted him, accusing him of harming his own kind. In response, Mr. Salerno assertively stated, "I told him, I'm not your kind, and you're not my kind. My manner, morals, and mores are not yours. The only thing we have in common is that we both spring from an Italian heritage and culture, and you are the traitor to that heritage and culture, which I am proud to be part of." And that is it for this video. If you want to watch more videos like this, click on the cards on the screen.